Hello everyone, welcome.
In this episode, I'll be keeping you company with a beautiful story of mice and men.
Two friends, one dream, and a painful reality. Of Mice and Men reminds us that dreams don't always come true.
Subscribe to the channel and close your eyes.
You're about to listen to a truly powerful story.
Let's begin.
Although there was evening brightness showing through the windows of the bunkhouse, inside it was dusk.
Through the open door came the thuds and occasional clangs of a horseshoe game, and now and then the sound of voices raised in approval or derision.
Slim and George came into the darkening bunkhouse together.
Slim reached up over the card table and turned on the tin-shaded electric light.
Instantly the table was brilliant with light, and the cone of the shade threw its brightness straight downward, leaving the corners of the bunkhouse still in dusk.
Slim sat down on a box and George took his place opposite.
It wasn't nothing, said Slim.
I would have had to drown most of 'em anyways,
No need to thank me about that.
George said. It wasn't much to you maybe, but it was a hell of a lot to him.
Jesus Christ, I don't know how we're gonna get him to sleep in here. He'll want to sleep right out in the barn with him. We'll have trouble keeping him from getting right in the box with them pups. It wasn't nothing, Slim repeated.
Say, you sure was right about him. Maybe he ain't bright, but I never seen such a worker. He damn near killed his partner Buck and Barley. There ain't nobody can keep up with him. God Almighty, I never seen such a strong guy. George spoke proudly.
Just tell Lenny what to do and he'll do it if it don't take no figuring. He can't think of nothing to do himself, but he sure can take orders. There was a clang of horseshoe on iron stake outside and a little cheer of voices.
Slim moved back slightly so the light was not on his face.
Funny how you and him string along together. It was Slim's calm invitation to confidence.
What's funny about it? George demanded defensively.
Oh, I dunno. Hardly none of the guys ever travel together.
I hardly never seen two guys travel together.
You know how the hands are, they just come in and get their bunk and work a month and then they quit and go out alone.
Never seem to give a damn about nobody. It just seems kind of funny a cuckoo like him and a smart little guy like you traveling together. He ain't no cuckoo, said George.
He's dumb as hell, but he ain't crazy.
And I ain't so bright neither, or I wouldn't be bucking barley for my 50 and found.
If I was bright, if I was even a little bit smart, I'd have my own little place, and I'd be bringing in my own crops, instead of doing all the work and not getting what comes up out of the ground. George fell silent.
He wanted to talk. Slim neither encouraged nor discouraged him.
He just sat back quiet and receptive.
It ain't so funny, him and me going around together, George said at last.
Him and me was both born in Auburn.
I knowed his Aunt Clara. She took him when he was a baby and raised him up. When his Aunt Clara died, Lenny just come along with me out workin'. Got kinda used to each other after a little while. Said Slim.
George looked over at Slim and saw the calm, godlike eyes fastened on him.
Funny, said George. I used to have a hell of a lot of fun with him.
Used to play jokes on him, 'cause he was too dumb to take care of himself.
But he was too dumb even to know he had a joke played on him.
I had fun. Made me seem goddamn smart alongside of him.
Why he'd do any damn thing I told heads.
If I told him to walk over a cliff, over he'd go.
That wasn't so damn much fun after a while.
He never got mad about it, neither. I beat the hell out of him, and he coulda bust every bone in my body just with his hands, but he never lifted a finger against me. George's voice was taking on the tone of confession.
Tell you what made me stop that.
One day a bunch of guys was standin' around up on the Sacramento River.
I was feeling pretty smart. I turns to Lenny and says, "Jump in."
And he jumps. Couldn't swim a stroke. He damn near drowned before we could get him. And he was so damn nice to me for pulling him out. Clean forgot I told him to jump in. Well, I ain't done nothing like that no more. He's a nice fella, said Slim.
Guy don't need no sense to be a nice fella. Seems to me sometimes it just works the other way around. Take a real smart guy and he ain't hardly ever a nice fella. George stacked the scattered cards and began to lay out his solitaire hand.
The shoes thudded on the ground outside.
At the windows, the light of the evening still made the window squares bright.
I ain't got no people, George said.
I seen the guys that go around on the ranches alone.
That ain't no good. They don't have no fun. After a long time they get mean. They get wantin' to fight all the time. Yeah, they get mean, Slim agreed. They get so they don't want to talk to nobody.
Course Lenny's a goddamn nuisance most of the time, said George. But you get used to going around with a guy and you can't get rid of him.
He ain't mean, said Slim. I can see Lenny ain't a bit mean.
Course he ain't mean. But he gets in trouble all the time because he's so goddamn dumb.
Like what happened in Weed Dash, he stopped in the middle of turning over a card. He looked alarmed and peered over at Slim. You wouldn't tell nobody?
What did he do in Weed? Slim asked calmly. You wouldn't tell?
No, course you wouldn't.
What did he do in Weed? Slim asked again. Well, he seen this girl in a red dress.
Dumb bastard like he is, he wants to touch everything he likes.
Just wants to feel it. So he reaches out to feel this red dress and the girl lets out a squawk. And that gets Lenny all mixed up and he holds on cause that's the only thing he can think to do.
Well, this girl squawks and squawks.
I was just a little bit off and I heard all the yellin', so I comes running, and by that time Lenny's so scared all he can think to do is just hold on.
I socked him over the head with a fence picket to make him let go.
He was so scared he couldn't let go of that dress.
And he's so goddamn strong, you know.
Slim's eyes were level and unwinking. He nodded very slowly. So what happens?
George carefully built his line of solitaire cards. Well, that girl rabbits in and tells the law she been raped.
The guys and we'd start a party out to lynch Lenny.
So we sit in a irrigation ditch underwater all the rest of that day.
Got Ani our heads sticking out of water and up under the grass that sticks out from the side of the ditch.
And that night we scrammed out of there.
Slim sat in silence for a moment. Didn't hurt the girl none, huh?
He asked finally. Hell no. You just scared her.
I'd be scared too if he grabbed me. But he never hurt her.
He just wanted to touch that red dress like he wants to pet them pups all the time.
He ain't mean, said Slim. I can tell a mean guy a mile off.
Course he ain't, and he'll do any damn thing I dash. Lenny came in through the door. He wore his blue denim coat over his shoulders like a cape, and he walked hunched way over. Hi, Lenny, said George. How you like the pup now?
Lenny said breathlessly. He's brown and white just like I wanted.
He went directly to his bunk and lay down and turned his face to the wall and drew up his knees. George put down his cards very deliberately. Lenny, he said sharply. Lenny twisted his neck and looked over his shoulder. Huh.
What you want, George? I told you couldn't bring that pup in here.
What pup, George? I ain't got no pup.
George went quickly to him, grabbed him by the shoulder and rolled him over.
He reached down and picked the tiny puppy from where Lenny had been concealing it against his stomach. Lenny sat up quickly. Give to me, George. George said, you get right up and take this pup back to the nest.
He's gotta sleep with his mother.
You want to kill him? Just born last night and you take him out of the nest.
You take him back or I'll tell Slim not to let you have him.
Lenny held out his hands pleadingly. Give to me, George. I'll take back. I didn't mean no harm, George.
Honest, I didn't. I just wanted to pet him a little. George handed the pup to him. Right. You get him back there quick, and don't you take him out no more.
You'll kill him the first thing you know.
Lenny fairly scuttled out of the room. Slim had not moved. His calm eyes followed Lenny out the door. Jesus, he said. He's just like Kid, ain't he?
Sure, he's just like a kid.
There ain't no more harm in him than a kid neither, except he's so strong.
I bet he won't come in here to sleep tonight.
He'd sleep right alongside that box in the barn.
Well, let him. He ain't doing no harm out there.
It was almost dark outside now. Old Candy, the swamper, came in and went to his bunk, and behind him struggled his old dog. Hello, Slim.
Hello, George. Didn't neither of you play horseshoes?
I don't like to play ever night, said Slim. Candy went on. Either you guys got a slug of whiskey?
I got a gut ache. I ain't, said Slim. I'd drink it myself if I had, and I ain't got a gut ache neither.
Got a bad gut ache, said Candy. Them God.
Damn turnips, give it to me. I know they was going to before I ever eat 'em.
The thick-bodied Carlson came in out of the darkening yard. He walked to the other end of the bunkhouse and turned on the second shaded light. Darker'n hell in here, he said. Jesus, how that nigger can pitch shoes.
He's plenty good, said Slim. Damn right he is, said Carlson. He don't give nobody else a chance to win dash. He stopped and sniffed the air and still sniffing looked down at the old dog. God almighty, that dog stinks.
Get him out of here, Candy. I don't know nothing that stinks as bad as an old dog.
You gotta get him out. Candy rolled to the edge of his bunk. He reached over and patted the ancient dog and he apologized. I been around him so much I never notice how he stinks.
Well, I can't stand him in here, said Carlson. That stink hangs around even after he's gone.
He walked over with his heavy-legged stride and looked down at the dog. Got no teeth, he said. He's all stiff with rheumatism.
He ain't no good to you, Candy.
And he ain't no good to himself.
Why'n't you shoot him, Candy?
The old man squirmed uncomfortably. Well, hell.
I had him so long. Had him since he was a pup.
I herded sheep with him. He said proudly. You wouldn't think it to look at him now, but he was the best damn sheepdog I ever seen.
George said, I seen a guy in Weed that had an Airedale could herd sheep.
Learned it from the other dogs.
Carlson was not to be put off. Look, Candy.
This of dog just suffers himself all the time.
If you was to take him out and shoot him right in the back of the head, he leaned over and pointed, right there, why he'd never know what hit him.
Candy looked about unhappily. No, he said softly. No, I couldn't do that.
I had him too long. He don't have no fun, Carlson insisted. And he stinks to beat hell.
Tell you what, I'll shoot him for you.
Then it won't be you that does it.
Candy threw his legs off his bunk. He scratched the white stubble whiskers on his cheek nervously. I'm so used to him, he said softly. I had him from a pup.
Well, you ain't being kind to him keeping him alive, said Carlson. Look, Slim's bitch got a litter right now.
I bet Slim would give you one of them PNPS to raise up, wouldn't you, Slim?
The Skinner had been studying the old dog with his calm eyes. Yeah, he said. You can have a pup if you want to.
He seemed to shake himself free for speech. Carl's right, Candy.
That dog ain't no good to himself.
I wish somebody'd shoot me if I get old and a cripple.
Candy looked helplessly at him, for Slim's opinions were law. Maybe it'd hurt him, he suggested. I don't mind taking care of him.
Carlson said, the way I'd shoot him, he wouldn't feel nothing.
I'd put the gun right there. He pointed with his toe. Right back of the head.
He wouldn't even quiver. Candy looked for help from face to face.
It was quite dark outside by now.
A young laboring man came in.
His sloping shoulders were bent forward and he walked heavily on his heels, as though he carried the invisible grain bag.
He went to his bunk and put his hat on his shelf. Then he picked up a pulp magazine from his shelf and brought it to the light over the table. Did I show you this, Slim?
He asked. Show me what? The young man turned to the back of the magazine, put it down on the table and pointed with his finger. Right there, read that.
Slim bent over it. Go on, said the young man. Read it out loud.
Dear editor, Slim read slowly. I read your mag for 6 years and I think it is the best on the market. I like stories by Peter Rand. I think he is a wingding. Give us more like the Dark Rider. I don't write many letters.
Just thought I would tell you I think your mag is the best dime's worth I ever spent.
Slim looked up questioningly. What you want me to read that for?
Wit said, go on. Read the name at the bottom.
Slim read, Yours for Success, William Tenner.
He glanced up at Wit again. What you want me to read that for?
Wit closed the magazine impressively. Don't you remember Bill Termer?
Worked here about 3 months ago?
Slim thought. Little guy?
He asked. Drove a cultivator?
That's him, Wit cried. That's the guy.
You think he's the guy wrote this letter?
I know it. Bill and me was in here one day.
Bill had one of them books that just come.
He was looking in it and he says, I wrote a letter. Wonder if they put it in the book. But it wasn't there.
Bill says maybe they're saving it for later.
And that's just what they done.
There it is. Guess you're right, said Slim. Got it right in the book.
George held out his hand for the magazine. Let's look at it.
Whit found the place again, but he did not surrender his hold on it.
He pointed out the letter with his forefinger. And then he went to his box shelf and laid the magazine carefully in. I wonder if Bill's seen it, he said. Bill and me worked in that patch of field peas.
Run cultivators, both of us. Bill was a hell of a nice fella.
During the conversation, Carlson had refused to be drawn in. He continued to look down at the old dog. Candy watched him uneasily. At last Carlson said, If you want me to, I'll put the old devil out of his misery right now and get it over with.
Ain't nothing left for him. Can't eat, can't see, can't even walk without hettin'.
Candy said hopefully, You ain't got no gun.
The hell I ain't. Got a Luger. It won't hurt him none at all.
Candy said, Maybe tomorrow.
Please wait till tomorrow. I don't see no reason for it, said Carlson. He went to his bunk, pulled his bag from underneath it and took out a Luger pistol. Please get it over with, he said. We can't sleep with him stinking around in here.
He put the pistol in his hip pocket.
Candy looked a long time at Slim to try to find some reversal.
And Slim gave him none. At last Candy said softly and hopelessly, All right, take him.
He did not look down at the dog at all. He lay back on his bunk and crossed his arms behind his head and stared at the ceiling. From his pocket Carlson took a little leather thong. He stooped over and tied it around the old dog's neck.
All the men except Candy watched him.
Come boy. Come on boy, he said gently.
And he said apologetically to Candy, He won't even feel it. Candy did not move nor answer him.
He twitched the thong. Come on boy. The old dog got slowly and stiffly to his feet and followed the gently pulling leash.
Slim said, Carlson, Yeah, you know what to do. What you mean, Slim? Take a shovel, said Slim shortly.
Oh sure. I get you. He led the dog out into the darkness.
George followed to the door and shut the door and set the latch gently in its place.
Candy lay rigidly on his bed staring at the ceiling.
Slim said loudly, One of my lead mules got a bad hoof. I gotta get some tar on it. His voice trailed off.
It was silent outside. Carlson's footsteps died away.
The silence come into the room.
And the silence lasted. George chuckled. I bet Lenny's right out there in the barn with his pup. He won't want to come in here no more now he's got a pup. Slim said, Candy, you can have any one of them pups you want. Candy did not answer.
The silence fell on the room again.
It came out of the night and invaded the room.
George said, Anybody like to play a little euchre? I'll play out a few with you, said Whit.
They took places opposite each other at the table under the light, but George did not shuffle the cards.
He rippled the edge of the deck nervously, and the little snapping noise drew the eyes of all the men in the room, so that he stopped doing it.
The silence fell on the room again.
A minute passed, and another minute.
Candy lay still, staring at the ceiling.
Slim gazed at him for a moment and then looked down at his hands. He subdued one hand with the other and held it down.
There came a little gnawing sound from under the floor and all the men looked down toward it gratefully.
Only Candy continued to stare at the ceiling.
Sounds like there was a rat under there, said George.
We ought to get a trap down there. Whit broke out. What the hell's taking him so long? Lay out some cards, why don't you? We ain't going to get no euchre played this way. George brought the cards together tightly and studied the backs of them.
The silence was in the room again.
A shot sounded in the distance.
The men looked quickly at the old man. Every head turned toward him.
For a moment, he continued to stare at the ceiling.
Then he rolled slowly over and faced the wall and lay silent.
George shuffled the cards noisily and dealt them.
Whit drew a scoring board to him and set the pegs to start.
Whit said, I guess you guys really come here to work. How do you mean? George asked.
Whit laughed. Well, you come on a Friday. You got 2 days to work till Sunday. I don't see how you figure, said George.
Whit laughed again. You do if you've been around these big ranches much.
Guy that wants to look over a ranch comes in Saturday afternoon.
He gets Saturday tight supper and 3 meals on Sunday, and he can quit Monday morning after breakfast without turning his hand.
But you come to work Friday noon. You got to put in a day and a half no matter how you figure. George looked at him levelly. We're gonna stick around a while, he said. Me and Lenny's gonna roll up a steak.
The door opened quietly and the stable buck put in his head, a lean Negro head lined with pain, the eyes patient. Mr.
Slim. Slim took his eyes from old Candy.
Oh. Hello, Crooks. What's a matter?
You told me to warm up tar for that mule's foot.
I got it warm. Oh. Sure, Crooks. I'll come right out and put it on.
I can do it if you want, Mr. Slim.
No. I'll come do it myself.
He stood up. Crooks said, Mr.
Slim. Yeah. That big new guy's messing around your pups out in the barn.
Well, he ain't doing no harm.
I give him one of them pups. Just thought I'd tell ya, said Crooks. He's tucking 'em out's the nest and handlin' them.
That won't do them no good. He won't hurt him, said Slim. I'll come along with you now.
George looked up. If that crazy bastard's foolin' around too much, just kick him out, Slim.
Slim followed the stable buck out of the room. George dealt and Whit picked up his cards and examined them. Seen the new kid yet?
He asked. What kid? George asked. Why, Curly's new wife.
Yeah, I seen her. Well, ain't she a Lulu?
I ain't seen that much of her, said George. Whit laid down his cards impressively. Well, stick around and keep your eyes open.
You'll see plenty. She ain't concealin' nothing.
I never seen nobody like her.
She got the eye going all the time on everybody.
I bet she even gives the stable buck the eye.
I don't know what the hell she wants.
George asked casually. Been any trouble since she got here?
It was obvious that Whit was not interested in his cards. He laid his hand down and George scooped it in. George laid out his deliberate solitaire hands-even cards, and 6 on top and 5 on top of those. Whit said, I see what you mean.
No, they ain't been nothing yet.
Curly's got yellow jackets in his drawers, but that's all so far.
Every time the guys is around, she shows up.
She's looking for Curly, or she thought she left Sotnathan layin' around and she's looking for it.
Seems like she can't keep away from guys.
And Curly's pants is just crawlin' with ants, but they ain't nothing come of it yet.
George said. She's gonna make a mess.
There's gonna be a bad mess about her.
She's a jailbait all set on the trigger.
That Curly got his work cut out for him.
Ranch with a bunch of guys on it ain't no place for a girl, especially like her.
Whit said, if you got ours, you ought to come in town with us guys tomorrow night.
Why? What's doin'? Just the usual thing.
We go into old Susie's place.
Hell of a nice place. Old Susie's a laugh, always crackin' jokes.
Like she says when we come up on the front porch last Saturday night.
Susie opens the door and then she yells over her shoulder. Get your coats on, girls, here comes the sheriff. She never talks dirty, neither.
Got 5 girls there. What's it set you back?
George asked. 2.5.
You can get a shot for 2 hits.
Susie got nice chairs to set in, too.
If a guy don't want to flop, why he can just set in the chairs and have a couple or 3 shots and pass the time of day and Susie don't give a damn.
She ain't rushing guys through and kicking 'em out if they don't want to flop.
Might go in and look the joint over, said George. Sure.
Come along. It's a hell of a lot of fun her crackin' jokes all the time.
Like she says one time, she says, I've knew people that if they got a rag rug on the floor and a Cupid doll lamp on the phonograph, they think they're running a parlor house.
That's Clara's house she's talking about.
And Susie says, I know what you boys want, she says. My girls is clean, she says, and there ain't no water in my whiskey, she says.
If any of you guys want to look at a Cupid doll lamp and take your own chance getting burned, why you know where to go.
And she says, there's guys around here walking bow-legged, 'cause they like to look at a Cupid doll lamp. George asked, Clara runs the other house, huh? Yeah, said Whit.
We don't never go there. Clara gets $3 a crack and 35 cents a shot, and she don't crack no jokes. But Susie's place is clean and she got nice chairs. Don't let no goo-goos in nither. Me and Lenny's rollin' up a steak, said George.
I might go in and set and have a shot, but I ain't puffin' out no 2.5. Well, a guy got to have some fun sometime, said Whit.
The door opened and Lenny and Carlson came in together.
Lenny crept to his bunk and sat down, trying not to attract attention.
Carlson reached under his bunk and brought out his bag.
He didn't look at old Candy, who still faced the wall.
Carlson found a little cleaning rod in the bag and a can of oil.
He laid them on his bed and then brought out the pistol, took out the magazine and snapped the loaded shell from the chamber.
Then he fell to cleaning the barrel with the little rod.
When the ejector snapped, Candy turned over and looked for a moment at the gun before he turned back to the wall again.
Carlson said casually, "Curly been in yet?" "No," said Whit.
What's eatin' on Curly? Carlson squinted down the barrel of his gun.
"Lookin' for his old lady. I seen him going round and round outside," Whit said sarcastically. "He spends half his time lookin' for her, and the rest of the time she's lookin' for him." Curly burst into the room excitedly.
Any you guys seen my wife? He demanded.
"She ain't been here," said Whit.
Curly looked threateningly about the room.
"Where the hell's Slim?" "Went out in the barn," said George.
He was gonna put some tar on a split hoof. Curly's shoulders dropped and squared.
"How long ago'd he go?" 5-10 minutes. Curly jumped out the door and banged it after him.
Whit stood up. I guess maybe I'd like to see this, he said.
Curly's just spoilin' or he wouldn't start for Slim. And Curly's handy, goddamn handy. Got in the finals for the Golden Gloves. He got newspaper clippings about it. He considered.
But just the same, he better leave Slim alone. Nobody don't know what Slim can do. Think Slim's with his wife, don't he? Said George.
Looks like it, Whit said. Course Slim ain't.
Least I don't think Slim is.
But I like to see the fuss if it comes off.
Come on, Lee's go. George said, I'm staying right here. I don't want to get mixed up in nothing. Lenny and me got to make a steak. Carlson finished the cleaning of the gun and put it in the bag and pushed the bag under his bunk.
I guess I'll go out and look her over, he said.
Old Candy lay still and Lenny from his bunk watched George cautiously.
When Whit and Carlson were gone and the door closed after them, George turned to Lenny.
What you got on your mind? I ain't done nothing, George. Slim says I better not pet them pups so much for a while. Slim says it ain't good for them, so I come right in. I been good, George. I coulda told you that, said George.
Well, I wasn't hitting him none.
I just had mine in my lap, petting it.
George asked, Did you see Slim out in the barn? Sure I did.
He told me I better not pet that pup no more.
Did you see that girl? You mean Curly's girl? Yeah. Did she come in the barn? No. Anyways, I never seen her. You never seen Slim talkin' to her? She ain't been in the barn. Okay, said George.
I guess them guys ain't gonna see no fight. If there's any fightin', Lenny, you keep out of it. I don't want no fights, said Lenny.
He got up from his bunk and sat down at the table across from George.
Almost automatically, George shuffled the cards and laid out his solitaire hand.
He used a deliberate, thoughtful slowness.
Lenny reached for a face card and studied it, then turned it upside down and studied it.
Both ends the same, he said.
George, why is it both ends the same? I don't know, said George.
That's just the way they make 'em.
What was Slim doing in the barn when you seen him? Slim? Sure.
You seen him in the barn and he told you not to pet the pups so much. Oh, yeah. He had a can of tar and a paintbrush. I don't know what for. You sure that girl didn't come in like she come in here today? No. She never come. George sighed.
You give me a good whorehouse every time, he said.
A guy can go in and get drunk and get everything out of his system all at once, no messes.
And he knows how much it's gonna set him back. These here jail baits is just set on the trigger of the Huskow. Lenny followed his words admiringly and moved his lips a little to keep up.
George continued. You remember Andy Cushman, Lenny? Went to grammar school. The one that his old lady used to make hot cakes for the kids? Lenny asked.
Yeah, that's the one. You can remember anything if there's anything to eat in it. George looked carefully at the solitaire hand.
He put an ace up on his scoring rack and piled a 2, 3, and 4 of diamonds on it.
Andy's in San Quentin right now on account of a tart, said George.
Lenny drummed on the table with his fingers.
George? Huh. George, how long's it gonna be till we get that little place and live on the fat of the lawn and rabbits? I don't know, said George.
We gotta get a big steak together. I know a little place we can get cheap, but they ain't giving it away. Old Candy turned slowly over.
His eyes were wide open. He watched George carefully.
Lenny said, "Tell about that place, George. I just told you just last night." "Go on, tell again, George." "Well, it's 10 acres, said George.
Got a little windmill. Got a little shack on it and a chicken run. Got a kitchen, orchard, cherries, apples, peaches, cots, nuts, got a few berries. They's a place for alfalfa and plenty water to flood it. They's a pig pen dash, and rabbits, George."
"No place for rabbits now, but I could easy build a few hutches and you could feed alfalfa to the rabbits."
"Damn right I could," said Lenny. "You goddamn right I could."
George's hand stopped working with the cards. His voice was growing warmer. "And we could have a few pigs."
"I could build a smokehouse like the one Grandpa had, and when we kill a pig we can smoke the bacon and the hams and make sausage and all like that."
"And when the salmon run up river, we could catch 100 of 'em and salt 'em down or smoke 'em.
"We could have them for breakfast.
They ain't nothing so nice as smoked salmon."
"When the fruit come in we could can it, and tomatoes they're easy to can."
"Every Sunday we'd kill a chicken or a rabbit."
"Maybe we'd have a cow or a goat, and the cream is so goddamn thick you got to cut it with a knife and take it out with a spoon."
Lenny watched him with wide eyes, and Old Candy watched him too. Lenny said softly, "We could live off of the fat of the lawn."
"Sure," said George. "All kinds of vegetables in the garden, and if we want a little whiskey we can sell a few eggs or something, or some milk."
"We'd just live there. We'd belong there. There wouldn't be no more running round the country and getting fed by a Jap cook."
"No, sir, we'd have our own place where we belonged and not sleep in no bunt house."
"Tell about the house, George," Lenny begged. "Sure, we'd have a little house and a room to ourself."
"Little fat iron stove, and in the winter we'd keep a fire going in it.
"It ain't enough land, so we'd have to work too hard."
Maybe 6-7 hours a day.
"We wouldn't have to buck no barley 11 hours a day."
"And when we put in a crop, why, we'd be there to take the crop up."
"We'd know what come of our planting."
"And rabbits," Lenny said eagerly. "And I'd take care of 'em. Tell how I'd do that, George."
"Sure, you'd go out in the alfalfa patch and you'd have a sack."
"You'd fill up the sack and bring it in and put it in the rabbit cages."
"They'd nibble and they'd nibble," said Lenny, "the way they do."
"I seen him. Ever 6 weeks or so," George continued, "them does would throw a litter so we'd have plenty rabbits to eat and to sell."
"And we'd keep a few pigeons to go flying around the windmill like they done when I was a kid."
He looked raptly at the wall over Lenny's head. "And it'd be our own and nobody could ken us. If we don't like a guy we can say, 'Get the hell out,' and by God he's got to do it."
"And if a friend come along, why, we'd have an extra bunk and we'd say, 'Why don't you spend the night?'"
And by God he would. "We'd have a setter dog and a couple striped cats, but you gotta watch out them cats don't get the little rabbits."
Lenny breathed hard. "You just let him try to get the rabbits. I'll break their goddamn necks."
"I'll smash him with a stick."
He subsided, grumbling to himself, threatening the future cats which might dare to disturb the future rabbits.
George sat entranced with his own picture. When Candy spoke they both jumped as though they had been caught doing something reprehensible. Candy said, "You know where's a place like that?"
George was on guard immediately. "'Spose I do," he said. "What's that to you?"
"You don't need to tell me where it's at."
"Might be any place." "Sure," said George. "That's right."
"You couldn't find it in 100 years.
Candy went on excitedly. "How much they want for a place like that?"
George watched him suspiciously. "Well, I could get it for $600.
The old people that owns it is flat bust and the of lady needs an operation.
Say what's it to you? You got nothing to do with us.
Candy said. I ain't much good with only one hand.
I lost my hand right here on this ranch.
That's why they give me a job, Swampin.
And they give me $250, 'cause I lost my hand and I got 50 more saved up right in the bank right now.
This 300 and I got 50 more coming the end of the month.
Tell you what, Dash, he leaned forward eagerly. S'pose I went in with you guys.
This $350 I'd put in.
I ain't much good, but I could cook and tend the chickens and hoe the garden some.
How'd that be? George half closed his eyes. I gotta think about that.
We was always gonna do it by ourselves.
Candy interrupted him. I'd make a will and leave my share to you guys in case I kick off, 'cause I ain't got no relatives nor nothing.
You guys got any money? Maybe we could do her right now?
George spat on the floor disgustedly. We got $10 between us.
Then he said thoughtfully, look, if me and Lenny work a month and don't spend nothing, we'll have $100.
That'd be $450. I bet we could swing her for that.
Then you and Lenny could go get her started and I'd get a job and make up the res and you could sell eggs and stuff like that.
They fell into a silence. They looked at one another, amazed. This thing they had never really believed in was coming true. George said reverently, Jesus Christ.
I bet we could swing her. His eyes were full of wonder. I bet we could swing her, he repeated softly. Candy sat on the edge of his bunk. He scratched the stump of his wrist nervously. I got hurt 4 years ago, he said. They'll can me putty soon.
Just as soon as I can't swamp out no bunkhouses, they'll put me on the county.
Maybe if I give you guys my money, you'll let me hoe in the garden even after I ain't no good at it.
And I'll wash dishes and little chicken stuff like that.
But I'll be on our own place and I'll be let to work on our own place.
He said miserably. You seen what they done to my dog tonight?
They says he wasn't no good to himself nor nobody else.
When they come here, I wish somebody'd shoot me. But they won't do nothing like that.
I won't have no place to go and I can't get no more jobs.
I'll have $30 more comin' time you guys is ready to quit.
George stood up. We'll do her, he said. We'll fix up that little old place and we'll go live there.
He sat down again. They all sat still, all bemused by the beauty of the thing. Each mind was popped into the future when this lovely thing should come about.
George said wonderingly, S'pose they was a carnival or a circus come to town or a ball game or any damn thing.
Old Candy nodded in appreciation of the idea. We'd just go to her, George said. We wouldn't ask nobody if we could.
Just say, we'll go to her, and we would.
Just milk the cow and sling some grain to the chickens and go to her.
And put some grass to the rabbits, Lenny broke in. I wouldn't never forget to feed them.
When we gone to do it, George?
In 1 month. Right squack in 1 month.
Know what I'm gone to do? I'm gone to write to them old people that owns the place that will take it.
And Candy'll send $100 to bind her.
Sure will, said Candy. They got a good stove there?
Sure, got a nice stove, burns coal or wood.
I'm gonna take my pup, said Lenny. I bet by Christ he likes it there, by Jesus.
Voices were approaching from outside. George said quickly, don't tell nobody about it.
Just us three and nobody else.
They leably to ken us so we can't make no stake.
Just go on like we was gonna buck barley the rest of our lives, then all of a sudden someday we'll go get our pay and scram out of here.
Lenny and Candy nodded, and they were grinning with delight. Don't tell nobody, Lenny said to himself. Candy said, George.
Ha! I ought to have shot that dog myself, George.
I shouldn't ought to have let no stranger shoot my dog.
The door opened. Slim came in, followed by Curly and Carlson and Wit. Slim's hands were black with tar and he was scowling. Curly hung close to his elbow. Curly said, Well, I didn't mean nothing, Slim.
I just asked to you. Slim said, Well, you been a-skin me too often.
I'm getting goddamn sick of it.
If you can't look after your own goddamn wife, what you expect me to do about it?
You lay off of me. I'm just trying to tell you I didn't mean nothing, said Curly. I just thought you might have saw her.
Why don't you tell her to stay the hell home where she belongs?
Said Carlson. You let her hang around bunkhouses and pretty soon you're gonna have some pin on your hands and you won't be able to do nothing about it.
Curly whirled on Carlson. You keep out of this less you want to step outside.
Carlson laughed. You goddamn punk, he said. You tried to throw a scare into Slim and you couldn't make it stick.
Slim throwed a scare into you.
You're yella as a frog belly.
I don't care if you're the best welter in the country.
You come for me and I'll kick your goddamn head off.
Candy joined the attack with joy.
Glove full of Vaseline, he said disgustedly.
Curly glared at him. His eyes slipped on past and lighted on Lenny, and Lenny was still smiling with delight at the memory of the ranch. Curly stepped over to Lenny like a terrier. What the hell you Logan at?
Lenny looked blankly at him. Huh?
Then Curly's rage exploded. Come on, you big bastard.
Get up on your feet. No big son of a bitch is gonna laugh at me. I'll show ya who's yella.
Lenny looked helplessly at George and then he got up and tried to retreat.
Curly was balanced and poised.
He slashed at Lenny with his left and then smashed down his nose with a right.
Lenny gave a cry of terror.
Blood welled from his nose. George, he cried. Let me alone, George. He backed until he was against the wall and Curly followed, slugging him in the face. Lenny's hands remained at his sides. He was too frightened to defend himself.
George was on his feet yelling, Get him, Lenny! Don't let him do it. Lenny covered his face with his huge paws and bleated with terror.
He cried, Stop, George. Then Curly attacked his stomach and cut off his wind.
Slim jumped up. The dirty little rat, he cried. I'll get him myself. George put out his hand and grabbed Slim.
Wait a minute, he shouted. He cupped his hands around his mouth and yelled, Get him, Lenny! Lenny took his hands away from his face and looked about for George, and Curly slashed at his eyes.
The big face was covered with blood.
George yelled again. I said get him. Curly's fist was swinging when Lenny reached for it.
The next minute, Curly was flopping like a fish on a line, and his closed fist was lost in Lenny's big hand.
George ran down the room. Let go of him, Lenny. Let go. But Lenny watched in terror the flopping little man whom he held.
Blood ran down Lenny's face. One of his eyes was cut and closed.
George slapped him in the face again and again, and still Lenny held on to the closed fist.
Curly was white and shrunken by now, and his struggling had become weak.
He stood crying, his fist lost in Lenny's paw.
George shouted over and over, Let go his hand, Lenny. Let go. Slim, come help me while the guy got any hand left. Suddenly Lenny let go his hold.
He crouched cowering against the wall.
You told me to, George, he said miserably.
Curly sat down on the floor, looking in wonder at his crushed hand.
Slim and Carlson bent over him.
Then Slim straightened up and regarded Lenny with horror.
We got to get him in to a doctor, he said.
Looks to me like every bone in his han is bust. I didn't want to, Lenny cried.
I didn't want to hurt him, Slim said. Carlson, you get the candy wagon hitched up. We'll take him into Soledad and get him fixed up. Carlson hurried out.
Slim turned to the whimpering Lenny.
It ain't your fault, he sighed. This punk sure had it coming to him. But Jesus, he ain't hardly got no han left. Slim hurried out, and in a moment returned with a tin cup of water.
He held it to Curly's lips. George said, Slim, will we get can now? We need the steak. Will Curly's old man can us now? Slim smiled wryly.
He knelt down beside Curly. You got your senses in hand enough to listen? He asked.
Curly nodded. Well then listen, Slim went on.
I think you got your han caught in a machine. If you don't tell nobody what happened, we ain't going to. But you just tell and try to get this guy canned and we'll tell everybody, and then will you get the laugh? I won't tell, said Curly.
He avoided looking at Lenny.
Buggy wheels sounded outside.
Slim helped Curly up. Come on now. Carlson's gonna take you to a doctor. He helped Curly out the door.
The sound of wheels drew away.
In a moment Slim came back into the bunkhouse.
He looked at Lenny, still crouched fearfully against the wall.
Lee, see your hands? He asked.
Lenny stuck out his hands. Christ almighty, I hate to have you mad at me, Slim said.
George broke in. Lenny was just scared, he explained.
He didn't know what to do. I told you nobody ought never to fight him. No, I guess it was Candy I told. Candy nodded solemnly.
That's just what you done, he said.
Right this morning when Curly first lit into your friend, you says, he better not fool with Lenny if he knows what's good for him. That's just what you says to me. George turned to Lenny.
It ain't your fault, he said.
You don't need to be scared no more. You done just what I told you to. Maybe you better go in the washroom and clean up your face. You look like hell. Lenny smiled with his bruised mouth.
I didn't want no trouble, he said.
He walked toward the door, but just before he came to it, he turned back.
George, what you want? I can still tend the rabbits, George? Sure. You ain't done nothing wrong. Y tiene man no arma, George. Well, get the hell out and wash your face. Crooks, the Negro stable buck, had his bunk in the harness room, a little shed that leaned off the wall of the barn.
On one side of the little room there was a square four-paned window, and on the other a narrow plank door leading into the barn.
Crook's bunk was a long box filled with straw, on which his blankets were flung.
On the wall by the window there were pegs on which hung broken harness in process of being mended.
Strips of new leather, and under the window itself a little bench for leatherworking tools, curved knives and needles and balls of linen thread, and a small hand riveter.
On pegs were also pieces of harness, a split collar with the horsehair stuffing sticking out, a broken hame, and a trace chain with its leather covering split.
Crooks had his apple box over his bunk, and in it a range of medicine bottles, both for himself and for the horses.
There were cans of saddle soap and a drippy can of tar with its paintbrush sticking over the edge.
And scattered about the floor were a number of personal possessions.
For, being alone, Crooks could leave his things about, and being a stable buck and a cripple, he was more permanent than the other men, and he had accumulated more possessions than he could carry on his back.
Crooks possessed several pairs of shoes, a pair of rubber boots, a big alarm clock, and a single-barreled shotgun.
And he had books, too, a tattered dictionary and a mauled copy of the California Civil Code for 1905.
There were battered magazines and a few dirty books on a special shelf over his bunk.
A pair of large gold-rimmed spectacles hung from a nail on the wall above his bed.
This room was swept and fairly neat, for Crooks was a proud, aloof man. He kept his distance and demanded that other people keep theirs.
His body was bent over to the left by his crooked spine, and his eyes lay deep in his head, and because of their depth seemed to glitter with intensity.
His lean face was lined with deep black wrinkles, and he had thin, pain-tightened lips which were lighter than his face.
It was Saturday night. Through the open door that led into the barn came the sound of moving horses, of feet stirring, of teeth champing on hay, of the rattle of halter chains.
In the stable buck's room a small electric globe threw a meager yellow light.
Crooks sat on his bunk. His shirt was out of his jeans and back.
In one hand he held a bottle of liniment, and with the other he rubbed his spine.
Now and then he poured a few drops of the liniment into his pink-palmed hand and reached up under his shirt to rub again.
He flexed his muscles against his back and shivered.
Noiselessly, Lenny appeared in the open doorway and stood there looking in, his big shoulders nearly filling the opening.
For a moment Crooks did not see him, but on raising his eyes he stiffened and a scowl came on his face.
His hand came out from under his shirt.
Lenny smiled helplessly in an attempt to make friends.
Crooks said sharply, "You got no right to come in my room. This here's my room. Nobody got any right in here but me." Lenny gulped and his smile grew more fawning.
I ain't doing nothing, he said.
Just come to look at my puppy. And I seen your light, he explained.
Well, I got a right to have a light. You go on, get out of my room. I ain't wanted in the bunkhouse and you ain't wanted in my room. Why ain't you wanted? Lenny asked.
'Cause I'm black. They play cards in there, but I can't play because I'm black. They say I stink. Well, I tell you, you all of you stink to me. Lenny flapped his big hands helplessly.
Everybody went into town, he said.
Slim and George and everybody.
George says I gotta stay here and not get in no trouble.
I seen your light. Well, what do you want? Nothing I seen your light. I thought I could just come in and set. Crooks stared at Lenny, and he reached behind him and took down the spectacles and adjusted them over his pink ears and stared again.
I don't know what you're doing in the barn anyway, he complained.
You ain't no Skinner. They's no call for a bucker to come into the barn at all.
You ain't no Skinner. You ain't got nothing to do with the horses. The pup, Lenny repeated, I come to see my pup. Well, go see your pup then. Don't come in a place where you're not wanted. Lenny lost his smile.
He advanced a step into the room, then remembered and backed to the door again.
I looked at him a little. Slim says I ain't to pet him very much. Crooks said, well, you been talking him out of the nest all the time. I wonder the old lady don't move him someplace else. Oh, she don't care. She lets me. Lenny had moved into the room again.
Crooks scowled, but Lenny's disarming smile defeated him.
Come on in and set a while, Crooks said.
Long as you won't get out and leave me alone, you might as well set down. His tone was a little more friendly.
All the boys gone into town, huh? All but old Candy. He just sits in the bunkhouse sharpening his pencil and sharpening and figuring. Crooks adjusted his glasses.
Figuring? What's Candy figuring about? Lenny almost shouted. About the rabbits. You're nuts, said Crooks.
You're crazy as a wedge. What rabbits you talking about? The rabbits we're gonna get and I get to tend 'em, cut grass and give 'em water and like that. Just nuts, said Crooks.
I don't blame the guy you travel with for keeping you out of sight, Lenny said quietly. It ain't no lie. We're gonna do it. Gonna get a little place and live on the fat of the lawn. Crooks settled himself more comfortably on his bunk.
Set down, he invited. Set down on the nail keg. Lenny hunched down on the little barrel.
You think it's a lie, Lenny said, but it ain't no lie. Ever word's the truth, and you can't's George. Crooks put his dark chin into his pink palm.
You travel around with George, don't ya? Sure. Me and him goes ever place together. Crooks continued.
Sometimes he talks, and you don't know what the hell he's talking about. Ain't that so? He leaned forward, boring Lenny with his deep eyes.
Ain't that so? Yeah, sometimes. Just talks on, and you don't know what the hell it's all about? Yeah, sometimes. But not always. Crooks leaned forward over the edge of the bunk.
I ain't a Southern Negro, he said.
I was born right there in California.
My old man had a chicken ranch, about 10 acres.
The white kids come to play at our place, and sometimes I event to play with them, and some of them was pretty nice.
My man didn't like that. I never knew till long later why he didn't like that. But I know now. He hesitated, and when he spoke again, his voice was softer.
There wasn't another colored family for miles around. And now there ain't a colored man on this ranch, and there's just one family in Soledad. He laughed.
If I say something, why it's just a nigger saying it, Lenny asked. How long you think it'll be before them pups will be old enough to pet? Crooks laughed again.
A guy can talk to you and be sure you won't go blabbing. Couple of weeks and them pups will be all right. George knows what he's about. Just talks and you don't understand nothing. He leaned forward excitedly.
This is just a nigger talkin' and a busted back nigger.
So it don't mean nothing, see? You couldn't remember it anyways.
I seen it over and over again talkin' to another guy, and it don't make no difference if you don't hear or understand.
The thing is they're talkin', or they're settin' still not talkin'. It don't make no difference, no difference. His excitement had increased until he pounded his knee with his hand.
George can tell you screwy things, and it don't matter. It's just the talking. It's just being with another guy. That's all. He paused.
His voice grew soft and persuasive.
S'pose George don't come back no more. S'pose he took a powder and just ain't coming back. What'll you do then? Lenny's attention came gradually to what had been said.
What? He demanded. I said I suppose George went into town tonight and you never heard of him no more. Crooks pressed forward some kind of private victory.
Just suppose that, he repeated.
He won't do it, Lenny cried.
George wouldn't do nothing like that. I've been with George a long time. He'll come back tonight, but the doubt was too much for him.
Don't you think he will? Crook's face lighted with pleasure in his torture.
Nobody can't tell what a guy'll do, he observed calmly.
Lee say he wants to come back and can't. Suppose he gets killed or hurt so he can't come back. Lenny struggled to understand.
George won't do nothing like that, he repeated.
George is careful. He won't get hurt. He ain't never been hurt, 'cause he's careful. Well, just suppose he don't come back. What'll you do then? Lenny's face wrinkled with apprehension.
I don't know. Say, what you doing anyways, he cried.
This ain't true. George ain't got hurt. Crooks bored in on him.
Want me to tell you what'll happen? They'll take you to the booby hatch. They'll tie you up with a collar like a dog. Suddenly Lenny's eyes
Centered and grew quiet and mad.
He stood up and walked dangerously toward Crooks.
Who hurt George? He demanded.
Crooks saw the danger as it approached him.
He edged back on his bunk to get out of the way.
I was just supposing, he said.
George ain't hurt. He's all right. He'll be back all right. Lenny stood over him.
What you supposin' for? Ain't nobody going to suppose no hurt to George. Crooks removed his glasses and wiped his eyes with his fingers.
Just set down, he said. George ain't hurt. Lenny growled back to his seat on the nail keg.
Ain't nobody going to talk no hurt to George, he grumbled.
Crooks said gently, maybe you can see now.
You got George. You know he's going to come back.
Suppose you didn't have nobody.
S'pose you couldn't go into the bunkhouse and play rummy 'cause you was black.
How'd you like that? Suppose you had to sit out here and read books.
Sure, you could play horseshoes till it got dark, but then you got to read books.
Books ain't no good. A guy needs somebody tobe near him.
He whined. A guy goes nuts if he ain't got nobody.
Don't make no difference who the guy is, long's he's with you. I tell ya, he cried, I tell ya a guy gets too lonely and he gets sick. George gonna come back, Lenny reassured himself in a frightened voice.
Maybe George come back already.
Maybe I better go see. Crooks said, I didn't mean to scare you.
He'll come back. I was talking about myself.
A guy sits alone out here at night, maybe reading books or thinking, or stuff like that.
Sometimes he gets thinking and he got nothing to tell him what's so and what ain't so.
Maybe if he sees something, he don't know whether it's right or not.
He can't turn to some other guy and ask him if he sees it too.
He can't tell. He got nothing to measure by.
I seen things out here. I wasn't drunk. I don't know if I was asleep. If some guy was with me, he could tell me I was asleep and then it would be all right. But I just don't know. Crooks was looking across the room now, looking toward the window.
Lenny said miserably, George won't go away and leave me.
I know George won't do that.
The stable buck went on dreamily, I remember when I was a little kid on my old man's chicken ranch.
Had 2 brothers. They was always near me, always there.
Used to sleep right in the same room, right in the same bed, all 3.
Had a strawberry patch. Had an alfalfa patch. Used to turn the chickens out in the alfalfa on a sunny morning. My brothers sat on a fence rail and watch 'em white chickens they was. Gradually Lenny's interest came around to what was being said.
George says we're gonna have alfalfa for the rabbits. What rabbits? We're gonna have rabbits in a berry patch. You're nuts. We are too. UST George. You're nuts. Crooks was scornful.
I seen hundreds of men come by on the road and on the ranches, with their bindles on their back and that same damn thing in their heads.
Hundreds of them. They come and they quit and go on, and every damn one of them's got a little piece of land in his head.
And never a goddamn one of 'em ever gets it.
Just like heaven. Everybody wants a little piece of lawn.
I read plenty of books out here.
Nobody never gets to heaven and nobody gets no land.
It's just in their head. They're all the time talking about it, but it's just in their head. He paused and looked toward the open door, for the horses were moving restlessly and the halter chains clinked.
A horse whinnied. I guess somebody's out there, Crooks said.
Maybe Slim. Slim comes in sometimes 2-3 times a night. Slim's a real skinner. He looks out for his team. He pulled himself painfully upright and moved toward the door.
That you, Slim? He called. Candy's voice answered.
Slim went in town. Say, you seen Lenny? You mean the big guy? Yeah. Seen him around any place? He's in here, Crooks said shortly.
He went back to his bunk and lay down.
Candy stood in the doorway, scratching his bald wrist and looking blindly into the lighted room.
He made no attempt to enter. Tell you what, Lenny. I've been figuring out about them rabbits. Crooks said irritably, you can come in if you want. Candy seemed embarrassed.
I do know. Of course, if you want me to. Come on in. If everybody's coming in, you might just as well. It was difficult for Crooks to conceal his pleasure with anger.
Candy came in, but he was still embarrassed.
You got a nice cozy little place in here, he said to Crooks.
Must be nice to have a room all to yourself this way. Sure, said Crooks.
And a manure pile under the window. Sure, it's swell. Lenny broke in. You said about them rabbits. Candy leaned against the wall beside the broken collar while he scratched the wrist stump.
I've been here a long time, he said.
And Crooks been here a long time. This the first time I ever been in his room. Crooks said darkly. Guys don't come into a colored man's room very much. Nobody been here but Slim. Slim and the boss. Candy quickly changed the subject.
Slim's as good a skinner as I ever seen. Lenny leaned toward the old swamper. About them rabbits, he insisted.
Candy smiled. I got it figured out. We can make some money on them rabbits if we go about it right. But I get to tend 'em, Lenny broke in.
George says I get to tend 'em. He promised. Crooks interrupted brutally.
You guys is just kin yourself.
You'll talk about it a hell of a lot, but you won't get no land.
You'll be a swamper here till they take you out in a box. Hell, I seen too many guys. Lenny here'll quit and be on the road in 2-3 weeks. Seems like ever guy got land in his head. Candy rubbed his cheek angrily.
You goddamn right we're gonna do it. George says we are. We got the money right now. Yeah, said Crooks.
And where's George now? In town in a whorehouse.
That's where your money's going.
Jesus, I seen it happen too many times.
I seen too many guys with land in their head.
They never get none under their hand.
Candy cried. Sure they all want it.
Everybody wants a little bit of land, not much.
Just something that was his.
Something he could live on, and there couldn't nobody throw him off of it.
I never had none. I planted crops for damn near everybody in this state, but they wasn't my crops, and when I harvested 'em, it wasn't none of any harvest.
But we gonna do it now, and don't you make no mistake about that.
George ain't got the money in town.
That money's in the bank. Me and Lenny and George. We gonna have a room to ourself. We're gonna have a dog and rabbits and chickens. We're gonna have green corn and maybe a cow or a goat. He stopped, overwhelmed with his picture.
Crooks asked, you say you got the money? Damn right. We got most of it. Just a little bit more to get. Have it all in 1 month. George got the land all picked out too. Crooks reached around and explored his spine with his hand.
I never seen a guy really do it, he said.
I seen guys nearly crazy with loneliness for land, but every time a whorehouse or a blackjack game took what it takes. He hesitated.
If you guys would want a hand to work for nothing, just his keep, why I'd come and lend a hand.
I ain't so crippled I can't work like a son of a bitch if I want to.
Any you boys seen Curly? They swung their heads toward the door.
Looking in was Curly's wife.
Her face was heavily made up.
Her lips were slightly parted.
She breathed strongly, as though she had been running.
Curly ain't been here, Candy said sourly.
She stood still in the doorway, smiling a little at them, rubbing the nails of one hand with the thumb and forefinger of the other.
And her eyes traveled from one face to another. They left all the weak ones here, she said finally. Think I don't know where they all went?
Even Curly. I know where they all went.
Lenny watched her, fascinated, but Candy and Crooks were scowling down away from her eyes. Candy said, then if you know, why you want to ask us where Curly is at?
She regarded them amusedly. Funny thing, she said. If I catch any one man and he's alone, I get along fine with him.
But just let 2 of the guys get together and you won't talk.
Just nothing but mad. She dropped her fingers and put her hands on her hips. You're all scared of each other, that's what.
Ever, one of you's scared the rest is going to get something on you.
After a pause, Crooks said, maybe you better go along to your own house now.
We don't want no trouble. Well, I ain't giving you no trouble.
Think I don't like to talk to somebody ever once in a while?
Think I like to stick in that house half the time?
Candy laid the stump of his wrist on his knee and rubbed it gently with his hand. He said accusingly, you got a husband.
You got no call fooling around with other guys causing trouble.
The girl flared up. Sure, I got a husband.
You all seen him. Swell guy, ain't he?
Spends all his time saying what he's gonna do to guys he don't like, and he don't like nobody.
Think I'm gonna stay in that 2x4 house and listen how Curly's gonna lead with his left twicked, and then bring in the of right cross?
1-2, he says. Just the of 1-2 and he'll go down.
She paused and her face lost its sullenness and grew interested. Say what happened to Curly's band?
There was an embarrassed silence. Candy stole a look at Lenny. Then he coughed. Why?
Curly. He got his hand caught in a machine, ma'am.
But his ban. She watched for a moment and then she laughed. Baloney.
What you think you're selling me?
Curly started some pen he didn't finish.
Caught in a machine, baloney.
Why, he ain't give nobody the good of 1-2 since he got his band bust.
Who bust him? Candy repeated sullenly, got it caught in a machine.
A right, she said contemptuously. A right, cover him up if you wanta. What I care? You bindlebums think you're so damn good.
Why do you think I am a kid? I tell you I could have went with shows.
Not just one, neither. And a guy told me he could put me in pictures.
She was breathless with indignation.
Saturday night. Everybody out doing something. Everybody. And what am I doing? Standing here talking to a bunch of bindle stiffs, a nigger and a dum-dum and a lousy of sheep and orin it because they ain't nobody else. Lenny watched her, his mouth half open.
Crooks had retired into the terrible protective dignity of the Negro.
But a change came over old Candy.
He stood up suddenly and knocked his nail keg over backward.
I had enough, he said angrily.
You ain't wanted here. We told you ain't.
And I tell ya, you got floozy-eyed R's about what us guys amounts to.
You ain't got sense enough in that chicken head to even see that we ain't stiffs.
S'pose you get us canned. S'pose you do. You think we'll hit the highway and look for another lousy two-bit job like this.
You don't know that we got our own ranch to go to and our own house.
We ain't got to stay here. We got a house and chickens and fruit trees and a place 100 times prettier than this.
And we got friends, that's what we got. Maybe there was a time when we was scared of getting canned, but we ain't no more. We got our own lawn, and it's ours, and we seen go to it. Curly's wife laughed at him.
Baloney, she said. I seen too many you guys.
If you had 2 bits in the world, why you'd be in getting 2 shots of corn with it and sucking the bottom of the glass. I know you guys. Candy's face had grown redder and redder, but before she was done speaking, he had control of himself.
He was the master of the situation.
I might have knew, he said gently.
Maybe you just better go along and roll your hoop.
We ain't got nothing to say to you at all.
We know what we got, and we don't care whether you know it or not.
So maybe you better just scatter along now, 'cause Curly maybe ain't gonna like his wife out in the barn with us bindle stiffs. She looked from one face to another, and they were all closed against her.
And she looked longest at Lenny until he dropped his eyes in embarrassment.
Suddenly she said, "Where'd you get them bruises on your face?" Lenny looked up guiltily.
Who, me? Yeah, you. Lenny looked to Candy for help, and then he looked at his lap again.
He got his hand caught in a machine, he said.
Curly's wife laughed. "'Kay, machine. I'll talk to you later. I like machines." Candy broke in.
You let this guy alone. Don't you do no messing around with him. I'm gonna tell George what you says. George won't have you messin' with Lenny. Who's George? She asked.
The little guy you come with? Lenny smiled happily.
That's him, he said. That's the guy, and he's gonna let me tend the rabbits. Well, if that's all you want, I might get a couple rabbits myself. Crooks stood up from his bunk and faced her.
I had enough, he said coldly.
You got no rights comin' in a colored man's room.
You got no rights messing around in here at all. Now you just get out and get out quick. If you don't, I'm gonna ask the boss not to ever let you come in the barn no more. She turned on him in scorn.
Listen, nigger, she said. You know what I can do to you if you open your trap. Crooks stared hopelessly at her, and then he sat down on his bunk and drew into himself.
She closed on him. You know what I could do. Crooks seemed to grow smaller, and he pressed
himself against the wall. Yes, ma'am. Well, you keep your place then, nigger. I could get you strung up on a tree so easy it ain't even funny. Crooks had reduced himself to nothing.
There was no personality, no ego, nothing to arouse either like or dislike.
He said, yes, ma'am, and his voice was toneless.
For a moment she stood over him,
as though waiting for him to move so that she could whip at him again. But Crooks sat perfectly still, his eyes averted, everything that might be hurt drawn in.
She turned at last to the other two.
Old Candy was watching her, fascinated.
If you was to do that, we'd tell, he said quietly.
We'd tell about you framin' crooks? Tell and be damned, she cried.
Nobody'd listen to you, and you know it. Nobody'd listen to you. Candy subsided.
No, he agreed. Nobody'd listen to us. Lenny whined, I wish George was here. I wish George was here. Candy stepped over to him.
Don't you worry none, he said.
I just heard the guys comin' in. George'll be in the bunkhouse right now, I bet. He turned to Curly's wife.
You better go home now, he said quietly.
If you go right now, we won't tell Curly you was here. She appraised him coolly.
I ain't sure you heard nothing. Better not take no chances, he said.
If you ain't sure, you better take the safe way. She turned to Lenny.
I'm glad you bust up Curly a little bit. He got it comin' to him. Sometimes I'd like to bust him myself. She slipped out the door and disappeared into the dark barn.
And while she went through the barn, the halter chains rattled, and some horses snorted and some stamped their feet.
Crooks seemed to come slowly out of the layers of protection he bad put on.
Was that the truth what you said about the guys come back? He asked.
Sure. I heard him. Well, I didn't hear nothing. The gate banged, Candy said, and he went on. Jesus Christ, Curly's wife can move quiet. I guess she had a lot of practice, though. Crooks avoided the whole subject now.
Maybe you guys better go, he said.
I ain't sure I want you in here no more. A colored man got to have some rights even if you don't like 'em. Candy said. That bitch did not to have said that to you. It wasn't nothing, Crooks said dully.
You guys comin' in and Seton made me forget. What she says is true. The horses snorted out in the barn and the chains rang and a voice called, Lenny. Oh, Lenny. You in the barn? It's George, Lenny cried.
And he answered, Here, George. I'm right in here. In a second, George stood framed in the door, and he looked disapprovingly about.
What you doin' in Crook's room? You hadn't ought to lie here. Crooks nodded. I told 'em, but they come in anyways. Well, why'n't you kick him out? I didn't care much, said Crooks.
Lenny's a nice fella. Now Candy aroused himself.
Oh, George, I've been figurin' and figurin'. I got it doped out how we can even make some money on them rabbits. George scowled.
I thought I told you not to tell nobody about that. Candy was crestfallen.
Didn't tell nobody but Crooks. George said, well, you guys get out of here. Jesus, seems like I can't go away for a minute. Candy and Lenny stood up and went toward the door.
Crooks called Candy. Ha. 'Member what I said about hoeing and doing odd jobs? Yeah, said Candy.
I remember. Well, just forget it, said Crooks.
I didn't mean it. Just foolin'. I wouldn't want to go no place like that. Well, okay, if you feel like that. Good night. The three men went out of the door.
As they went through the barn, the horses snorted and the halter chains rattled.
Crooks sat on his bunk and looked at the door for a moment, and then he reached for the liniment bottle.
He pulled out his shirt and back, poured a little liniment in his pink palm, and reaching around, he fell slowly to rubbing his back. One end of the great barn was piled high with new hay, and over the pile hung the Fort Alone Jackson fork suspended from its pulley.
The hay came down like a mountain slope to the other end of the barn, and there was a level place as yet unfilled with the new crop.
At the sides the feeding racks were visible, and between the slats the heads of horses could be seen.
It was Sunday afternoon. The resting horses nibbled the remaining wisps of hay, and they stamped their feet and they bit the wood of the mangers and rattled the halter chains.
The afternoon sun sliced in through the cracks of the barn walls and lay in bright lines on the hay.
There was the buzz of flies in the air, the lazy afternoon humming.
From outside came the clang of horseshoes on the playing peg and the shouts of men, playing, encouraging, jeering.
But in the barn it was quiet and humming and lazy and warm.
Only Lenny was in the barn, and Lenny sat in the hay beside a packing case under a manger in the end of the barn that had not been filled with hay.
Lenny sat in the hay and looked at a little dead puppy that lay in front of him.
Lenny looked at it for a long time and then he put out his huge hand and stroked it clear from one end to the other.
And Lenny said softly to the puppy, "Why do you got to get killed? You ain't so little as mice."
I didn't bounce you hard. He bent the pup's head up and looked in its face and he said to it, "Now maybe George ain't gonna let me tend no rabbits if he finds out you got killed."
He scooped a little hollow and laid the puppy in it and covered it over with hay out of sight, but he continued to stare at the mound he had made.
He said, "This ain't no bad thing like I got to go hide in the brush. No, this ain't. I'll tell George the first found it dead." He unburied the puppy and inspected it, and he stroked it from ears to tail.
He went on sorrowfully, "But he'll know. George always knows. He'll say you done it. Don't try to put nothing over on me." And he'll say, "Now just for that you don't get to tend no rabbits." Suddenly his anger arose.
"God damn you," he cried. "Why do you got to get killed? You ain't so little as mice." He picked up the pup and hurled it from him.
He turned his back on it. He sat bent over his knees and he whispered, "Now I won't get to tend the rabbits. Now he won't let me." He rocked himself back and forth in his sorrow.
From outside came the clang of horseshoes on the iron stake, and then a little chorus of cries.
Lenny got up and brought the puppy back and laid it on the hay and sat down.
He stroked the pup again. "You wasn't big enough," he said.
"They told me you wasn't. I didn't know you'd get killed so easy." He worked his fingers on the pup's limp ear.
"Maybe George won't care," he said.
This here goddamn little son of a bitch wasn't nothing to George. Curly's wife came around the end of the last stall.
She came very quietly so that Lenny didn't see her.
She wore her bright cotton dress and the mules with the red ostrich feathers.
Her face was made up and the little sausage curls were all in place.
She was quite near to him before Lenny looked up and saw her.
In a panic he shoveled hay over the puppy with his fingers.
He looked sullenly up at her.
She said, "What you got there, sonny boy?" Lenny glared at her.
"George says I ain't to have nothing to do with you talk to you or nothing." She laughed. "George giving you orders about everything?" Lenny looked down at the hay.
"Says I can't tend no rabbits if I talk to you or anything."
She said quietly, "He's scared Curly'll get mad." "Well, Curly got his arm in a sling and if Curly gets tough, you can break his other hawn. You didn't put nothing over on me about getting it caught in no machine." But Lenny was not to be drawn.
"No, sir, I ain't gonna talk to you or nothing." She knelt in the hay beside him.
"Listen," she said, "all the guys got a horseshoe tenement going on."
"At only about 4 o'clock. None of them guys is going to leave that tenement. Why can't I talk to you? I never get to talk to nobody. I get awful lonely." Lenny said, "Well, I ain't supposed to talk to you or nothing. I get lonely," she said.
"You can talk to people, but I can't talk to nobody but Curly. Else he gets mad." "How'd you like not to talk to anybody?" Lenny said. "Well, I ain't supposed to. George is scared I'll get in trouble." She changed the subject.
"What you got covered up there?" Then all of Lenny's woe came back on him.
"Joe, my pup," he said sadly. "Just my little pup." And he swept the hay from on top of it.
"Why, he's dead," she cried. "He was so little," said Lenny.
"I was just playing with him. And he made like he's gonna bite me. And I made like I was gonna smack him. And I done it. And then he was dead." She consoled him.
Don't you worry none. He was just a mutt. You can get another one easy. The whole country is full of mutts. It ain't that so much, Lenny explained miserably.
George ain't gonna let me tend no rabbits now. Why don't he? Well, he said if I done any more bad things, he ain't gonna let me tend the rabbits. She moved closer to him and she spoke soothingly.
Don't you worry about talkie to me. Listen to the guys yell out there. They got $4 bet in that tenement. None of them ain't gonna leave till it's over. If George sees me talking to you, he'll give me hell, Lenny said cautiously.
He told me so. Her face grew angry.
What's the matter with me? She cried.
Ain't I got a right to talk to nobody? Why do they think I am, anyways? You're a nice guy. I don't know why I can't talk to you. I ain't doing no harm to you. Well, George says you'll get us in a mess. Ah, nuts, she said.
What kind of harm am I doing to you? Seems like they ain't none of them cares how I gotta live.
I tell you I ain't used to living like this. I could have made something of myself, she said darkly. Maybe I will yet. And then her words tumbled out in a passion of communication, as though she hurried before her listener could be taken away.
I lived right in Salinas, she said.
Come there when I was a kid.
Well, a show come through and I met one of the actors.
He says I could go with that show. But my of lady wouldn't let me. She says because I was only 15. But the guy says I coulda. If I'd went, I wouldn't be living like this, you bet. Lenny stroked the pup back and forth.
We gonna have a little place in Rabbits, he explained.
She went on with her story quickly before she should be interrupted.
Another time I met a guy and he was in pictures.
Went out to the Riverside Dance Palace with him. He says he was gonna put me in the movies. Says I was a natural. Soon's he got back to Hollywood, he was gonna write to me about it. She looked closely at Lenny to see whether she was impressing him.
I never got that letter, she said.
I always thought my of lady stole it.
Well, I wasn't gonna stay no place where I couldn't get nowhere or make something of myself, and where they stole your letters.
I asked her if she stole it too, and she says no.
So I married Curly. Met him out to the Riverside Dance Palace that same night.
She demanded. You listenin'? Me? Sure. Well, I ain't told this to nobody before. Maybe I haven't to. I don't like Curly. He ain't a nice fella. And because she had confided in him, she moved closer to Lenny and sat beside him.
Could have been in the movies and had nice clothes, all them nice clothes like they wear.
And I could have sat in them big hotels and had pictures took of me.
When they had them previews, I could have went to them and spoke in the radio, and it wouldn't have cost me a cent because I was in the picture.
And all them nice clothes like they wear. Because this guy says I was a natural. She looked up at Lenny, and she made a small grand gesture with her arm and hand to show that she could act.
The fingers trailed after her leading wrist, and her little finger stuck out grandly from the rest.
Lenny sighed deeply. From outside came the clang of a horseshoe on metal, and then a chorus of cheers.
Somebody made a ringer, said Curly's wife.
Now the light was lifting as the sun went down, and the sun streaks climbed up the wall and fell over the feeding racks and over the heads of the horses.
Lenny said, maybe if I took this pup out and throwed him away, George wouldn't never know, and then I could tend the rabbits without end trouble.
Curly's wife said angrily, Don't you think of nothing but rabbits? We gonna have a little place, Lenny explained patiently.
We gonna have a house and a garden and a place for alfalfa, and that alfalfa is for the rabbits, and I take a sack and get it all full alfalfa and then I take it to the rabbits.
She asked, What makes you so nuts about rabbits? Lenny had to think carefully before he could come to a conclusion.
He moved cautiously close to her until he was right against her.
I like to pet nice things. Once at a fair I seen some of them long-hair rabbits. And they was nice, you bet. Sometimes I've even pet mice, but not when I could get nothing better. Curly's wife moved away from him a little.
I think you're nuts, she said.
No, I ain't, Lenny explained earnestly.
George says I ain't. I like to pet nice things with my fingers, soft things. She was a little bit reassured.
Well, who don't, she said. Everybody likes that. I like to feel silk and velvet. Do you like to feel velvet? Lenny chuckled with pleasure.
You bet by God, he cried happily.
And I had some too. A lady give me some, and that lady was my own Aunt Clara. She give it right to me about this big a piece. I wished I had that velvet right now. A frown came over his face.
I lost it, he said. I ain't seen it for a long time. Curly's wife laughed at him.
You're nuts, she said. But you're a kinda nice fella. Just like a big baby. But a person can see kinda what you mean. When I'm doing my hair, sometimes I just sit and stroke it 'cause it's so soft. To show how she did it, she ran her fingers over the top of her head.
Some people got kinda coarse hair, she said complacently.
Take Curly. His hair is just like wire. But mine is soft and fine. Course I brush it a lot. That makes it fine. Here, feel right here. She took Lenny's hand and put it on her head.
Feel right around there and see how soft it is. Lenny's big fingers fell to stroking her hair.
Don't you muss it up, she said.
Lenny said, Oh, that's nice, and he stroked harder.
Oh, that's nice. Look out now, you'll muss it. And then she cried angrily. You stop it now, you'll mess it all up. She jerked her head sideways, and Lenny's fingers closed on her hair and hung on.
Let go, she cried. You let go. Lenny was in a panic.
His face was contorted. She screamed then, and Lenny's other hand closed over her mouth and nose.
Please don't, he begged. Oh, please don't do that. George'll be mad. She struggled violently under his hands.
Her feet battered on the hay and she writhed to be free, and from under Lenny's hand came a muffled screaming.
Lenny began to cry with fright.
Oh, please don't do none of that, he begged.
George gonna say I done a bad thing. He ain't gonna let me tend no rabbits. He moved his hand a little and her hoarse cry came out.
Then Lenny grew angry. Now don't, he said.
I don't want you to yell. You're gonna get me in trouble just like George says you will. Now don't you do that. And she continued to struggle, and her eyes were wild with terror.
He shook her then, and he was angry with her.
Don't you go yellin', he said, and he shook her, and her body flopped like a fish.
And then she was still, for Lenny had broken her neck.
He looked down at her and carefully removed his hand from over her mouth, and she lay still.
I don't want to hurt you, he said, but George'll be mad if you yell. When she didn't answer nor move, he bent closely over her.
He lifted her arm and let it drop.
For a moment he seemed bewildered.
And then he whispered in fright, I done a bad thing. I done another bad thing. He pawed up the hay until it partly covered her.
From outside the barn came a cry of men and the double clang of shoes on metal.
For the first time Lenny became conscious of the outside.
He crouched down in the hay and listened.
I done a real bad thing, he said.
I shouldn't have did that. George'll be mad. And, he said, and hide in the brush till he come. He's gonna be mad. In the brush till he come. Tha's what he said. Lenny went back and looked at the dead girl.
The puppy lay close to her. Lenny picked it up.
I'll throw him away, he said.
It's bad enough like it is. He put the pup under his coat, and he crept to the barn wall and peered out between the cracks toward the horseshoe game.
And then he crept around the end of the last manger and disappeared.
The sun streaks were high on the wall by now, and the light was growing soft in the barn.
Curly's wife lay on her back, and she was half covered with hay.
It was very quiet in the barn, and the quiet of the afternoon was on the ranch.
Even the clang of the pitched shoes, even the voices of the men in the game seemed to grow more quiet.
The air in the barn was dusky in advance of the outside day.
A pigeon flew in through the open hay door and circled and flew out again.
Around the last stall came a shepherd bitch, lean and long with heavy hanging dugs.
Halfway to the packing box were the puppies where she caught the dead scent of Curly's wife, and the hair arose along her spine.
She whimpered and cringed to the packing box and jumped in among the puppies.
Curly's wife lay with a half covering of yellow hay.
And the meanness and the plannings and the discontent and the ache for attention were all gone from her face.
She was very pretty and simple, and her face was sweet and young.
Now her rouged cheeks and her reddened lips made her seem alive and sleeping very lightly.
The curls, tiny little sausages, were spread on the hay behind her head, and her lips were parted.
As happens sometimes, a moment settled and hovered and remained for much more than a moment.
And sound stopped and movement stopped for much, much more than a moment.
Then gradually time awakened again and moved sluggishly on.
The horses stamped on the other side of the feeding racks, and the halter chains clinked.
Outside, the men's voices became louder and clearer.
From around the end of the last stall, old Candy's voice came.
"Lenny," he called. "Oh, Lenny, you in here? One been figuring some more. Tell you what we can do, Lenny." Old Candy appeared around the end of the last stall.
"Oh, Lenny," he called again, and then he stopped and his body stiffened.
He rubbed his smooth wrist on his white stubble whiskers.
"I didn't know you was here," he said to Curly's wife.
When she didn't answer, he stepped nearer.
"You oughtn't to sleep out here," he said disapprovingly. And then he was beside her and, "Oh, Jesus Christ!" He looked about helplessly and he rubbed his beard.
And then he jumped up and went quickly out of the barn.
But the barn was alive now. The horses stamped and snorted, and they chewed the straw of their bedding and they clashed the chains of their halters.
In a moment Candy came back and George was with him.
George said, "What was it you wanted to see me about?" Candy pointed at Curly's wife.
George stared. "What's the matter with her?" he asked.
He stepped closer and then he echoed Candy's words.
"Oh, Jesus Christ." He was down on his knees beside her.
He put his hand over her heart.
And finally, when he stood up, slowly and stiff-eyed, his face was as hard and tight as wood, and his eyes were hard.
Candy said, "What done it?" George looked coldly at him.
"Ain't you got any idea?" he asked.
And Candy was silent. "I should have knew," George said hopelessly.
"I guess maybe way back in my head I did." Candy asked, "What we gonna do now, George? What we gonna do now?" George was a long time in answering.
"Guess. We gotta tell the guys. I guess we gotta get him and lock him up. We can't let him get away. Why, the poor bastard'd starve." And he tried to reassure himself.
"Maybe they'll lock him up and be nice to him." But Candy said excitedly, "We ought to let him get away. You don't know that Curly. Curly Gonta want to get him lynched. Curly'll get him killed." George watched Candy's lips.
"Yeah," he said at last, "that's right, Curly will. And the other guys will." And he looked back at Curly's wife.
Now Candy spoke his greatest fear.
"You and me can get that little place, can't we, George? You and me can go there and live nice, can't we, George? Can't we?" Before George answered, Candy dropped his head and looked down at the hay.
"You knew," George said softly. "I think I knowed from the very first. I think I knowed we'd never do her. He used to like to hear about it so much I got to thinking maybe we would." "Then it's all off?" Candy said sulkily.
George didn't answer his question.
George said, "I'll work my month and I'll take my $50 and I'll stay all night in some lousy cat house.
Or I'll sit in some pool room till everybody goes home.
And then I'll come back and work another month and I'll have $50 more." Candy said, "He's such a nice fella. I didn't think he'd do nothing like this." George still stared at Curly's wife.
"Lenny never done it in meanness," he said. "All the time he done bad things, but he never done one of 'em mean." He straightened up and looked back at Candy.
"Now listen, we gotta tell the guys.
"They got to bring him in, I guess,"
They ain't no way out. Maybe they won't hurt him."
he said sharply. "I ain't gonna let him hurt Lenny.
Now you listen. The guys might think I was in on it.
I'm gonna go in the bunkhouse."
Then in a minute you come out and tell the guys about her and I'll come along and make like I never seen her."
"Will you do that? So the guys won't think I was in on it?" Candy said. "Sure, George."
"Sure, I'll do that." "Okay. Give me a couple minutes then and you come running out and tell like you just found her." "I'm going now." George turned and went quickly out of the barn.
Old Candy watched him go. He looked helplessly back at Curly's wife, and gradually his sorrow and his anger grew into words.
"You goddamn tramp," he said viciously.
"You don't eat, dienne to you? I suppose you're glad." Everybody knowed you'd mess things up. You wasn't no good. You ain't no good now, you lousy tart. He sniveled and his voice shook.
I could have hoed in the garden and washed dishes for them guys. He paused and then went on in a sing-song.
And he repeated the old words. If they was a circus or a baseball game.
We would have went to her.
Just said ta hell with work and went to her.
Never ast nobody say so. And they'd have been a pig and chickens.
And in the winter, the little fat stove, and the rain comin', and us just settin' there. His eyes blinded with tears, and he turned and went weakly out of the barn, and he rubbed his bristly whiskers with his wrist stump.
Outside, the noise of the game stopped.
There was a rise of voices in question, a drum of running feet, and the men burst into the barn.
Slim and Carlson and young Wit and Curly, and Crooks keeping back out of attention range.
Candy came after them, and last of all came George.
George had put on his blue denim coat and buttoned it, and his black hat was pulled down low over his eyes.
The men raced around the last stall.
Their eyes found Curly's wife in the gloom. They stopped and stood still and looked.
Then Slim went quietly over to her, and he felt her wrist.
One lean finger touched her cheek, and then his hand went under her slightly twisted neck and his fingers explored her neck.
When he stood up, the men crowded near, and the spell was broken.
Curly came suddenly to life.
I know who done it, he cried.
That big son of a bitch done it. I know he done it. Why everybody else was out there playing horseshoes. He worked himself into a fury.
I'm gonna get him. I'm going for my shotgun. I'll kill the big son of a bitch myself. I'll shoot him in the guts. Come on, you guys. He ran furiously out of the barn.
Carlson said, I'll get my Luger, and he ran out too.
Slim turned quietly to George.
I guess Lenny done it all right, he said.
Her neck's bust. Lenny coulda did that. George didn't answer, but he nodded slowly.
His hat was so far down on his forehead that his eyes were covered.
Slim went on. Maybe like that time in Weed you was tellin' about. Ken George nodded.
Slim sighed. Well, I guess we got to get him. Where you think he might have went? It seemed to take George some time to free his words.
He would have went south, he said.
We come from north, so he would have went south. I guess we gotta get him, Slim repeated.
George stepped close. Couldn't we maybe bring him in and they'll lock him up? He's nuts, Slim. He never done this to be mean. Slim nodded.
We might, he said. If we could keep Curly in, we might. But Curly's gonna want to shoot him. Curly's still mad about his hand. And I suppose they lock him up and strap him down and put him in a cage. That ain't no good, George. I know, said George.
I know. Carlson came running in. The bastard stole my Luger, he shouted.
It ain't in my bag. Curly followed him, and Curly carried a shotgun in his good hand.
Curly was cold now. All right, you guys, he said.
The nigger's got a shotgun. You take it, Carlson.
When you see Ern, don't give him no chance.
Shoot for his guts. That'll double him over. Wit said excitedly, I ain't got a gun. Curly said, you go in Soledad and get a cop. Get A.I. Wiltz, he's deputy sheriff. Lee's go now. He turned suspiciously on George.
You're coming with us, fella. Yeah, said George.
I'll come. But listen, Curly. The poor bastard's nuts. Don't shoot him. He didn't know what he was doing. Don't shoot him? Curly cried.
He got Carlson's Luger. Course we'll shoot him. George said weakly. Maybe Carlson lost his gun, I seen it this morning, said Carlson. No, it's been took.
Slim stood looking down at Curly's wife. He said, Curly, maybe you better stay here with your wife.
Curly's face reddened. I'm going, he said. I'm gonna shoot the guts out of that big bastard myself, even if I only got one hand.
I'm gonna get him. Slim turned to Candy. You stay here with her then, Candy. The rest of us better get going.
They moved away. George stopped a moment beside Candy, and they both looked down at the dead girl until Curly called, You, George!
You stick with us so we don't think you had nothing to do with this.
George moved slowly after them, and his feet dragged heavily. And when they were gone, Candy squatted down in the hay and watched the face of Curly's wife. Poor bastard, he said softly.
The sound of the men grew fainter.
The barn was darkening gradually, and in their stalls, the horses shifted their feet and rattled the halter chains.
Old Candy lay down in the hay and covered his eyes with his arm. The deep green pool of the Salinas River was still in the late afternoon.
Already the sun had left the valley to go climbing up the slopes of the Gabilan Mountains, and the hilltops were rosy in the sun.
But by the pool among the mottled sycamores, a pleasant shade had fallen.
A water snake glided smoothly up the pool, twisting its periscope head from side to side, and it swam the length of the pool and came to the legs of a motionless heron that stood in the shallows.
A silent head and beak lanced down and plucked it out by the head, and the beak swallowed the little snake while its tail waved frantically.
A far rush of wind sounded, and a gust drove through the tops of the trees like a wave.
The sycamore leaves turned up their silver sides, the brown dry leaves on the ground scudded a few feet.
And row on row of tiny wind waves flowed up the pool's green surface.
As quickly as it had come, the wind died and the clearing was quiet again.
The heron stood in the shallows, motionless and waiting.
Another little water snake swam up the pool, turning its periscope head from side to side.
Suddenly Lenny appeared out of the brush, and he came as silently as a creeping bear moves.
The heron pounded the air with its wings, jacked itself clear of the water and flew off downriver.
The little snake slid in among the reeds at the pool's side.
Lenny came quietly to the pool's edge.
He knelt down and drank, barely touching his lips to the water.
When a little bird skittered over the dry leaves behind him, his head jerked up and he strained toward the sound with eyes and ears until he saw the bird, and then he dropped his head and drank again.
When he was finished, he sat down on the bank with his side to the pool so that he could watch the trail's entrance.
He embraced his knees and laid his chin down on his knees.
The light climbed on out of the valley, and as it went, the tops of the mountains seemed to blaze with increasing brightness.
Lenny said softly, "I didn't forget, you bet, goddamn. Hide in the brush and wait for George." He pulled his hat down low over his eyes.
"George gonna give me hell," he said.
"George gonna wish he was alone and not have me both airin' him." He turned his head and looked at the bright mountain tops.
"I can go right off there and find a cave," he said.
And he continued sadly, "And never have no ketchup, but I won't care. If George don't want me, I'll go away. I'll go away." And then from out of Lenny's head there came a little fat old woman.
She wore thick bullseye glasses, and she wore a huge gingham apron with pockets, and she was starched and clean.
She stood in front of Lenny and put her hands on her hips, and she frowned disapprovingly at him.
And when she spoke, it was in Lenny's voice.
"I told you," she said.
"I told you, Min George, because he's such a nice fella and good to you."
"But you don't never take no care. You do bad things." And Lenny answered her, "I tried, Aunt Clara, ma'am. I tried and tried. I couldn't help it. You never give a thought to George," she went on in Lenny's voice.
"He been doing nice things for you all the time. When he got a piece of pie, you always got half or more'n half. And if they was any ketchup, why he'd give it all to you." "I know," said Lenny miserably.
"I tried, Aunt Clara, ma'am. I tried and tried." She interrupted him.
"All the time he could have had such a good time if it wasn't for you. He would have took his pay and raised hell in a whorehouse, and he could have sat in a pool room and played snooker. But he got to take care of you." Lenny moaned with grief.
"I know, Aunt Clara, ma'am. I'll go right off in the hills and I'll fin a cave and I'll live there so I won't be no more trouble to George." "You just say that," she said sharply.
"You're always saying that, and you know son of a bitching well you ain't never gonna do it."
"You'll just stick around and stew the bejesus out of George all the time." Lenny said, "I might just as well go away. George ain't gonna let me tend no rabbits now." Aunt Clara was gone, and from out of Lenny's head there came a gigantic rabbit.
It sat on its haunches in front of him, and it waggled its ears and crinkled its nose at him.
And it spoke in Lenny's voice too.
"Tend rabbits," it said scornfully.
"You crazy bastard. You ain't fit to lick the boots of no rabbit. You'd forget him and let him go hungry. That's what you'd do. And then what would George think?" "I would not forget," Lenny said loudly.
"The hell you would," said the rabbit.
"You ain't worth a greased jackpin to ram you into hell."
"Christ knows George done everything he could to jack you out of the sewer, but it don't do no good."
If you think George gonna let you tend rabbits, you're even crazier than usual.
He ain't. He's gonna bear hell out of you with a stick, that's what he's gonna do.
Now Lenny retorted belligerently, he ain't neither.
George won't do nothing like that. I've knew George since, one forget when, and he ain't never raised his band to me with a stick. He's nice to me. He ain't gonna be mean. Well, he's sick of you, said the rabbit.
He's gonna beat hell out of you and then go away and leave you. He won't, Lenny cried frantically.
He won't do nothing like that.
I know George. Me and him travels together. But the rabbit repeated softly over and over. He gonna leave you, you crazy bastard. He gonna leave you all alone. He gonna leave you, crazy bastard. Lenny put his hands over his ears.
He ain't, I tell you he ain't. And he cried, oh! George, George, George. George came quietly out of the brush and the rabbit scuttled back into Lenny's brain.
George said quietly, what the hell you yellin' about? Lenny got up on his knees.
You ain't gonna leave me, are ya, George? I know you ain't. George came stiffly near and sat down beside him.
No. I knowed it, Lenny cried.
You ain't that kind. George was silent.
Lenny said, George. Yeah. I done another bad thing. It don't make no difference, George said, and he fell silent again.
Only the topmost ridges were in the sun now.
The shadow in the valley was blue and soft.
From the distance came the sound of men shouting to one another.
George turned his head and listened to the shouts.
Lenny said, George. Yeah. Ain't you gonna give me hell? Give you hell? Sure, like you always done before.
Like if I didn't have you, it'd take my $50. Jesus Christ, Lenny. You can't remember nothing that happens, but you remember every word I say. Well, ain't you gonna say it?
George shook himself. He said woodenly, if I was alone, I could live so easy.
His voice was monotonous, had no emphasis. I could get a job and not have no mess.
He stopped. Go on, said Lenny. And when the end of the month come, I could take my $50 and go to a
cat house. He stopped again. Lenny looked eagerly at him. Go on, George.
Ain't you gonna give me no more hell?
No, said George. Well, I can go away, said Lenny. I'll go right off in the hills and find a cave if you don't want me. George shook himself again. No, he said. I want you to stay with me here.
Lenny said craftily, tell me like you done before.
Tell you what? About the other guys and about us.
George said, guys like us got no family.
They make a little steak and then they blow it in.
They ain't got nobody in the world that gives a hoot in hell about it, but not us, Lenny cried happily.
Tell about us now. George was quiet for a moment. But not us, he said. Because I got you and I got you. We got each other, that gives a hoot in hell about us, Lenny cried in triumph.
The little evening breeze blew over the clearing and the leaves rustled and the wind waves flowed up the green pool.
And the shouts of men sounded again, this time much closer than before.
George took off his hat. He said shakily, take off your hat, Lenny. The air feels fine. Lenny removed his hat dutifully and laid it on the ground in front of him.
The shadow in the valley was bluer and the evening came fast.
On the wind, the sound of crashing in the brush came to them.
Lenny said, tell how it's gonna be. George had been listening to the distant sounds.
For a moment, he was businesslike.
Look across the river, Lenny, and I'll tell you so you can almost see it. Lenny turned his head and looked off across the pool and up the darkening slopes of the Gabalons.
We gonna get a little place, George began.
He reached in his side pocket and brought out Carlson's Luger. He snapped off the safety and the hand and gun lay on the ground behind Lenny's back.
He looked at the back of Lenny's head at the place where the spine and skull were joined.
A man's voice called from up the river and another man answered.
Go on, said Lenny. George raised the gun and his hand shook, and he dropped his hand to the ground again.
Go on, said Lenny. How's it gonna be? We gonna get a little place. We'll have a cow, said George.
And we'll have maybe a pig and chickens. And down the flat we'll have a little piece alfalfa for the rabbits, Lenny shouted.
For the rabbits, George repeated.
And I get to tend the rabbits. And you get to tend the rabbits. Lenny giggled with happiness.
And live on the fat of the lawn. Yes. Lenny turned his head.
No, Lenny. Look down there across the river like you can almost see the place. Lenny obeyed him.
George looked down at the gun.
There were crashing footsteps in the brush now.
George turned and looked toward them.
Go on, George. When we gonna do it? Gonna do it soon.
Me and you. And me. Everybody gonna be nice to you. Ain't gonna be no more trouble. Nobody gonna hurt nobody nor steal from him. Lenny said, I thought you was mad at me, George. No, said George.
No, Lenny. I ain't mad. I never been mad, and I ain't now. That's a thing I want you to know. The voices came close now.
George raised the gun and listened to the voices.
Lenny begged, "Lease do it now. Lease get that place now. Sure, right now. I gotta. We gotta." And George raised the gun and steadied it, and he brought the muzzle of it close to the back of Lenny's head.
The hand shook violently, but his face set and his hand steadied.
He pulled the trigger. Crash of the shot rolled up the hills and rolled down again.
Lenny jarred and then settled slowly forward to the sand, and he lay without quivering.
George shivered and looked at the gun, and then he threw it from him back up on the bank near the pile of old ashes.
The brush seemed filled with cries and with the sound of running feet.
Slim's voice shouted, "George. Where you at, George?" But George sat stiff-eyed on the bank and looked at his right hand that had thrown the gun away.
The group burst into the clearing and Curly was ahead.
He saw Lenny lying on the sand.
Got him, by God. He went over and looked down at Lenny, and then he looked back at George.
Right in the back of the head, he said softly.
Slim came directly to George and sat down beside him, sat very close to him.
"Never you mind," said Slim. "A guy got to sometimes." But Carlson was standing over George.
How'd you do it? He asked. I just done it, George said tiredly.
Did he have my gun? Yeah, he had your gun. And you got it away from him and you took it and you killed him? Yeah, this how. George's voice was almost a whisper.
He looked steadily at his right hand that had held the gun.
Slim twitched George's elbow.
Come on, George. Me and you'll go in and get a drink. George let himself be helped to his feet.
Yeah, a drink. Slim said. You had a, George. I swear you had to. Come on with me. He led George into the entrance of the trail and up toward the highway.
Curly and Carlson looked after them.
And Carlson said, Now what the hell you suppose is eating them two guys?